We began this survey in different times, of course. Manufacturing and many parts of the economy were doing quite well. Over the last 7 years, we've seen manufacturing, of course, go down through the Great Recession and bottom out. And what we've seen in the last couple years, and especially in this year's survey, is what we're calling literally a renaissance or rebirth now occurring. And if this survey hadn't been running for 7 years, we wouldn't have seen that in our study. If you recall, during the Great Recession, when many companies were more in survival mode, it was about conserving your cash, being very selective in your investments, either in terms of new products or existing products. But once we got beyond 2008, 2009, you begin to see a positive uptake. And as I recall, I think about 25% of Hoosier manufacturers were rolling out a new product within the year. But one thing that we've noticed in the data that I think is kind of interesting is that a number of Indiana manufacturers are investing very aggressively now in engineering and design capabilities.
The perception that manufacturing is still on the decline has led a lot of young people to look elsewhere in terms of their careers, and this is unfortunate because I think manufacturing, in fact, is making a comeback in the United States. You see a lot of major corporations that are reshoring jobs. A small portion of our survey addresses the issue of reshoring, and you do see momentum in that direction, and I think it's going to increase for a number of reasons, one of which is the energy price advantage that the United States has relative to much of the rest of the world. So there is, I think, a potentially bright future for manufacturing if the workers are there.
Yeah, I think that that's something that, actually adding up the surveys for the last several years, we've seen issues around worker shortages, especially skilled production worker shortages, because technology can only get you so far. But beyond that, you need really skilled, innovative, decisive type workers who can also take the initiative to go ahead and fully dial in processes and get what you're looking for, the superb efficiency along with the great quality and fast delivery and all those kinds of other performance measures.
So for instance, someone who can program a CNC machine, that's the type of person that basically is hard to find. And I know when we presented these results, both here in Indianapolis and in Fort Wayne, to a live audience of manufacturing managers, response that we got in both locations was not only agreement with this finding, but concern that they didn't see any solution, that the educational system, that is, had any solution for it in the works. A dentist can hire a dental hygienist who has been trained in a 2-year program at Indiana University. There is no comparable program for, say, someone who's basically going to be a skilled machinist and a programmer.
One thing that also kind of made me think a bit about some of these issues are, if you think about the way the Affordable Health Care Act, for example, defines a work week as 30 hours, and I mentioned a little while ago, manufacturers now are working overtime. Capacity utilization levels are up very high now. And so for them, as they're looking at some of the health care and regulatory issues on one side and thinking a 30-hour work week perhaps might be the way to go, on the other side, they're looking at what their competitors around the world are doing. They're looking at their demand. They're looking at their backlog of business. And they're thinking, if anything, we need a 50-hour work week to handle all this, which again is kind of the bridge we talked about in terms of the skill shortage and using your people to not only get their full production out, but keeping them around a little while longer to implement new technologies and improve processes on the side.
Well, and I think something that we've continuously heard, especially I think from small to medium-sized privately held companies, was managers say, I don't have time to run my business because I'm trying to figure out how to comply with the Affordable Health Care Act. What I think everybody underestimated is the transition process.
Again, we take it as a very positive sign that Indiana manufacturers are investing for the future, but not just down on the shop floor, but in many aspects of their business, including the engineering and the design capabilities.